כל השונה הלכות בכל יום בעזרת השם. הבטח לו שהוא בן ארום. But בעזרת השם, we're learning today two mitzvot, right? Mitzvah number 155, where there's an obligation for the Jews to check if the fish is kosher, to look for it on the signs on it. And also mitzvah number 156, the prohibition of eating non-kosher fish. B'ezrat Hashem, the mitzvah will be today dedicated to Natzlachat Kol Chayalei Israel, and also we need miracles. Mamish, today is the Zot Chanukah, the last day of Chanukah, and Yeshivath Hashem Keherefein. Hashem could make miracles as there's abundance of them in the store for us, the Jewish people. And B'ezrat Hashem, we beg Hashem to forgive us for all our sins, return all our captives, send Refuah Shlema to all sick people in this world. B'ezrat Hashem, as we know that Hashem is all merciful. Also today mitzvot are dedicated, B'ezrat Hashem, to Lil Nishmat, all the people who died without relatives, to pray for them. Hashem should take the limud of the Torah and elevate their neshamot, B'ezrat Hashem. Mitzvah number 155. We the Jews have an obligation to see livdok b'simanei dagim, to see if the fish have any the signs of kashrut. כלומר, שהרצה לאכול מן הדגים שיבדוק תחילה בהם יפה הסימנים שנתנה התורה בהם. Anybody wants to consume, anybody wants to eat fish, he has to make sure that the fish contains this markings that will allow us to be eating it, as it says in the Torah. The signs are snapir v'kaskeset. It has to have the snapir, I guess the wings, and then kaskeset. It has to also have the what is it called? Yosef. Yeah. How you say kaskeset in Hebrew, in English? It has to have fins, and it has to have the kaskeset, the why? What is the word? The English word? I don't remember. I forgot. In Russian they say chishuya. In English they say no. The fish has the outside, the outside shells that come off. I forgot the name of it. Okay, it's kaskeset in English. Maybe it'll come to my mind. Shneimar, it says in the Torah Vayikra, chapter 11, pasuk tet. This you should consume, which are in the water. What does that mean? Kol asher lo snapir, anything that has fin, the kaskeset, and it has to have the kaskeset. Kaskeset is the those round things that you peel off, that you take off with a knife or scrape it off from the fish. If it has that, good. B'mayim, b'yamim, b'nchalim, utam tochelo. Anywhere in the world. How do you say kaskeset in Hebrew? In English? Yosef. Kaskeset, how you say in English? Kaskeset.
What's that?
Kaskeset, the fish has scales. Thank you. Thank you for your listening. Scale, kaskeset is scales.
Scales.
Scales. S-C-A, scales, L-E-S, scales. The fish has scales, you take off the scales. Only kosher fish has scales. That's it, end of thing.
אני לא מבין מה אתה אומר בכלל, איזה מילה?
קסקסת, בנביא.
קסקסת.
כן. Things, scales. Scales, okay, ברוך השם, finally we discovered it. כבר כתבנו במצווה הקודמת לזו, שהרמב"ן זיכרונו לברכה לא יחשוב בעניין המצוות בבדיקת הסימנים, במינים שהתירה התורה. So again, the Rabbi has mentioned by the Ramban, that Ramban was not particular in the Torah, does not obligate you to look for signs of kashrut. So there's a machlokes. The Rambam says there is a mitzvah actually observing fish and deciding if it's kosher or not. וכי האמת איתו בזה, לפי הנראה לנו, ואף על פי שמצאנו בגמרא, even though we find that it sounds like the Rambam is correct, and we find in the Gemara also in Chulin, page 66, בפירוש בקצתן זו מצוות עשה, הכוונה בעניין לחייב ומינין הטמאין בעשה ולא תעשה. The Torah tells us to obligate you for all the, for not kosher animals, and to obligate you for מעשה ולא תעשה. Over there, by prohibiting you from consuming the non-kosher fish. אם הכלל הידוע לנו, הבא מכלל עשה, as we already learned, that anytime there is a prohibition in the Torah, there is actually a mitzvah in the Torah. And then you could understand the prohibition, deducing it from that, and that sounds like a mitzvah. וכמו שנכתוב גם כן בעזרת השם במצוות על הנבואת הנוכרי, as we will learn later, giving loans to the mitzvah number 573, giving out loans to a goy with the interest. Torah tells us we're not allowed to give out to the Jew with interest, but the goy we learn now that there is a mitzvah to give to the interest. Okay. שעכשיו הרמב"ם זיכרונו לברכה למצווה, הרמב"ם considered it a mitzvah. ולא בא כתוב לפי הדומה רק לחייב בעשה ולא תעשה בהלוואת ישראל בריבית. Okay. And the whole purpose over there was that Hashem wanted to give you a punishment for a Jew who lends out with interest. Okay. So this again, sometimes that's the way the Torah is taught. Torah tells you a commandment to perform the mitzvah, and you automatically learn out from it a prohibition of the other side. שורש מצווה כתבנו גם כן למעלה בסימני הבהמה, והוא כלל לארבעת המינים. Okay, you have to understand that as we already said many times, the foundation of the mitzvot of kashrut are actually the entire existence of the Jewish nation. The kashrut of our consumption, what goes into our mouth, it actually controls everything. Our thought process, our acceptance of process, our benevolence, our humility. It's all, many of it stem from the food that we consume, right? If you're careful with the food that you consume, now you could be a sensitive individual. Like I'm right now talking to some Indonesian people who are Muslims, unfortunately, and those real wild animals. Some of them are real wild animals because in their mind they have no problem they're posting on chats beheadings, and they're rejoicing, and they're cursing me, and they want to kill me because I'm a rabbi. How dare I support Israeli state? Again, it doesn't matter what I support and I don't support. The fact is, the question is, how do you have such a frivolity of behavior, of non-feeling? It's like, I'll shecht you, I'll kill you, I'll do anything. Why? Because very simple. If you eat garbage, that's what you become. If you eat wild animals that are not calm, that are literally, so you become that animal. That's why you see an Arab has zero problem shechting a hair of a person, because he's an animal. Because he eats animals that are not kosher, taref, and unfortunately, that's what happens. Again, you might say that maybe Arabs are more careful with animals. It's not true. They're not careful about tolaim. They're not careful about worms and all those things that are inside the foods, like the Jewish nation is, Baruch Hashem. So we are very much adinim. You're going to say, so how come our soldiers, waging this war? How is it possible that a nation like us, we are so calm and so benevolent and so modest and behaving properly and talking in a pattern of speech? Yes, when you come to hurt me, I'll protect myself. And protect myself means everything, right? That's the way it is. That's the way the world runs. So, if chas v'shalom. But the question is, here you have Indonesian people who have zero to do with Palestine, who have zero to do with anything, but they're talking like wild beasts. And the reason is because they're eating garbage, non-kosher food, non-relaxing food that does not calm their heads down, so they could talk despicable things without a problem. It's like a normal thing by them. It's like watching somebody's beheading. It's a normal thing by them. That's like okay, normal life. No, it's not. You have to be a human. An element of humanity disappears if you consume garbage food, and that's what we're talking about here. Well, that's going to be the foundation of all kosher food in the Torah. Now, what are the rules? The rules of, obviously, it has to have things and it has to have scales. Now, שסנפיר הוא מה שבדג, שהוא לא כעין הכנפיים שפורח בהן. So snapir is, what is snapir? The fangs is has like a wings, which the fish sounds like it's floating or flying in the ocean with them. So that makes it kosher. אף על פי שלא נמצא לקסקסת כי אם במקצת גופו, ואפילו אחת לבד דיו וקשה. Now, even if the fish would have only one scale on the entire body, and it falls off easily and whatever it is, that would make it kosher already. Also within Chulin, page Gimel, page 3, Mishnah 3, chapter 3, Mishnah 9, והוא שתהיה תחת לחיו או תחת זנבו, או תחת סנפיריו, אבל בשאר גופו לא סג ילן ופחות משתיים. So the one scale that has to be under one of its wings, tachas navo, or under its tail, but it cannot. But anywhere else on the body must have two scales at least. One will not be enough. The kosher נמצא בו קסקסת ואפילו אחד במקומות נזכרים. צריך לבדוק אם יש לו סנפיר. Okay, the rule is, if once you find a scale, then you don't need to check if it has things because it's automatically. Whatever has scales must have the things. That's the way the world of fish works. וכל דג שבטבעו יש לו קסקסת אף על פי שאין נאזין בו בעודו קטן עד שיגדיל, כגון הסולטנין והאופניין, הרי זה מותר. Even though let's say a small fish that don't have any scales grow into it after a certain age. Now you catch those small fish, you're allowed to consume it. The babies you're allowed to consume, even though they don't have any scales. But when it's an older age, it does. That would make it kosher also. וכל שיש בו קסקסין בעודו בים, אף על פי שהוא משאיר אותן כשעולה מן הים, like now there's some fish, they let out all the scales once you lift it off the ocean, like tuna, like what's his name? The question of mackerel fish. Also, once you pull it out of the ocean, the scales come off. That's still going to make it kosher. הרי זה כשר שלא תקפיד התורה. The Torah is not meticulous more than that. אחד לבד בדגה וזמח על האחד. Now, same rule applies if a person consumed only relying on one sign and you didn't look for the second sign. אף על פי שנמצא אחר כן כשר ביטל עשה זה. If a person consumes fish without fully checking all the details, even though if it could be still kosher, he didn't transgress by consuming non-kosher fish, but he did not fulfill this mitzvah according to Rambam to check and to verify the fish is kosher. Mitzvah number 156. שלא נאכול דג טמא, we're prohibited from consuming an impure fish, as it says in the Torah, ויקרא chapter 11, pasuk 11, מבשרם לא תאכלו ואת נבלתם תשקצו. You're not allowed to eat those the non-kosher fish. בסימנים דגים כשרים כתבנו, we already explained to you all the kosher fish. Now anything that's missing the snapirs, missing the fins, and missing the scales, those will be consumed considered non-kosher. And we already explained מצווה שכתבנו למעלה בעניין איסור המאכל, שהאל ברוך הוא הרחיק מעמו כל מה שנזק נמצא בו. הקדוש ברוך הוא forbade us and distance from us to consuming all the non-kosher, which will harm us in the end, will harm our behavior, will harm our attitudes, chas v'shalom, and therefore we are prohibited to eat it. The hen, behema, or off or dagim, doesn't matter if it's a wild animal, that's a bird, or it's a fish. If it's not, as described in the Torah that tells us which we're allowed to eat, everything else is going to be asur, and it's going to hurt us, and it's going to harm us and damage us, and make us like this individuals that not have Indonesian, like I told you, I'm talking to those Indonesians. They have zero to do with the war, but the hatred, the vile that they have, and the attitude, just to go wage a war. Here you have in America, same thing. You have wild animals gathering in campuses, gathering in bridges, Manhattan Bridge, Brooklyn Bridge, just gathering there. Those wild beasts have nothing to do with a war. They're not even Palestinians. Just let's kill the Jews, and they're chanting, "Let's kill the Jews." I don't understand. One thing you want to say, let's stop the ceasefire. You want to make a protest, make a ceasefire. That's presentable. The question will be, why didn't you say ceasefire in Russia, in Ukraine? That's a separate question. But let's say you want to say ceasefire. That's one thing. But go out there and scream, let's kill all the Jews. Let's clear out the whole Israel from the ocean to the sea. Let's kill them all. I mean, what are you talking about? Who does that? What's the connection? The connection is very simple. You eat neverot trefot, you eat garbage whole day. Your body becomes a tool for impurity, and through that impurity, now you could talk like a wild animal, and nobody can do anything about it because you're a bunch of animals. דיני המצווה כתבנו, למעלה גם כן הביהם בחולין פרק ג', and don't be surprised, there's Jews talk like that also. Yeah, the Jews talk against Jews the same way. They consume all the trefot, all the garbage, and they have zero problem destroying with their mouths and talking bad against Hashem's Torah and all those things. This mitzvah of prohibition of eating dag tameh, not pure fish, it's everywhere, man or woman, as a matter of if anybody consumes 28 grams of fish, of let's say a shark or not kosher fish, he will get lashes. If he did it by mistake, he will be exempt. Repeat with Hashem. Have a wonderful Shabbat.